Here's an example of my squash, and you can see all the fruit on it. It's an early producer. It's a fantastic, fantastic squash, and I'm going to put it probably on the market maybe next year because it needs to be shared. It's very, the squash bugs don't like it. Do an update on the garden and how it's growing in these temperatures that have been consistently above the mid-90s. It's not all great, but it is certainly not horrible. It's actually one of the better gardens I've ever had. So let's take a look at it, shall we? In my simplistic little mind, I think it's easier just to go down one row at a time and just kind of show you what I've got growing. In the end here on two of these trellises here, I've got Tahitian melon squash. This row doesn't have one growing on it. The vine has gone way over here. And I've got one flowering here. But over there, if you see, I'll take you and show you those in just a minute. But I do have some fruit growing. This is a white Egyptian squash. I've gotten one off of it. And it looks like we got one coming on pretty soon here. There's a tomato. This is one of my breeding here. And there is no fruit on it that I can see, and that's true of most of the tomatoes. The leaves aren't doing the greatest in the world, and I've got some leaf curl from the heat. And of course, when it gets in these temperatures, the pollen doesn't want to, the pollen's not viable, so tomatoes can't be fertilized, the ovaries can't be fertilized, and therefore they don't grow. This is a squash that I'm trialing. We'll see how it does. I got the seeds. I can't remember where I got the seeds, but this particular one is, I'm growing, because I don't know how to eat them. It's a peppo, but I don't know if it's a pumpkin or a summer squash. It looks in between. But anyway, I'm going to let that one mature and see what it's like mature. And I've got some babies up here, one there, and let's see, yeah, there's one down here that hopefully will get fertilized. The bees are out, and I can try them as a summer squash. A lot of times, though, when you have mature fruit on like this, the plant doesn't want to set any more fruit. Here's some more tomatoes. I did get a little bit of fruit set here. More tomatoes of a different variety. This is one of my own. It's a parthenocarpic variety called Madison, and it sets in the high heat like that, and it sets a lot of fruit. But even parthenocarpic varieties can only take so much. I mean, it'll set in the heat, but if the plant is stressed, it doesn't set as much, not because it can't, but because the plant's trying to protect itself to survive. And so even in parthenocarpic plants, that doesn't mean it'll grow in extreme heat. I've got one here for an example right next to it, and you can see the leaf curl. This is an heirloom, and what is this? Big Zac. Yeah, this is a Big Zac open pollinated, and it is so stressed. The leaves are curled. It's around midday here, maybe 12, noon 30, But you can see this is happening with a lot of the open pollinateds. It's just it doesn't like this heat. Next to it is a squash that it's a I called this, give me a second, it's a butterball. It's a round machada, C. machada, which is the species of butternut, and it is growing pretty good. I'm attempting to cross this one with Tahitian melon squash to create a unique type of butternut, but I'm also wanting to get the next generation of this, so I was hoping it would grow some more. I should have saved the original first and then tried to cross it. But anyway, this is what it looks like. It's a round type butternut. I'm going to call butterball. Got some eggplants. This is Louisiana green oval. It's a very nice variety on its own, open pollinated. Again, I got some stressed tomato plants here, a little bit of fruit set. Not great. I got a late start with tomatoes. Another eggplant that's getting tore up by these little beetles. I forget the name of them. I'll put it in the video what the name of them is. Some more open pollinated. This is a variety called Curtis Cheek. You can Google it if you want to find out anything about that variety. This is a variety of mine called Cherry Bear, and it's going to be, and it is the 3rd generation, and it's also parthenocarp. You can see it setting in, but again, it's a little bit stressed. More of the Cherry Bear throughout here. Some of them are setting. This is another one of my eggplants called Royal Purple, and it's a very unique cross. It's a cross between Camo, K-A-M-O, and Listata de Gandia, which is an Italian and an Asian squash cross. I love everything about this. It's really dark. It's got dark calyx here, and the fruit is, I call it royal purple, which is why it's named that. It's a very bright purple color. This is also this is a zucchino replicante, otherwise known as trombone or tromboncini, depending on how you do it. It's a machada that's eaten which is a winter squash, which is eaten as a summer squash. And I've tried it, it's okay. I probably won't grow it again because it's not super prolific, and it doesn't anything compare to my squash here, which is next. This is Madison's Cross, and it's an exceptional, and I mean exceptional, yellow summer squash. It blows away early prolific and yellow crookneck. I need to put that one off. It's got some fungus. Well, that's what happens when it doesn't get pollinated. It stops growing and it'll get the little fungus. These are getting close. I do have peppers in between each one of these, various kinds. This one is probably lipstick. I like that one as a sweet pepper. What have we got here? This is a breeding of mine. I'm not sure. This is Sweet Colors, which is a cross between lipstick and my spicy California Brine, which is somewhat similar to jalapeno California Brine is. I've got a seed squash here from my squash for next generation. This is a pepperoncini plant here, and I'm getting some fruit set in it. And like I said, or may have said, peppers and tomatoes got a really late start. My whole garden got a late start, but peppers and tomatoes need an earlier start than everything else. It's my squash here. The bees have just started coming out in the past week or so. So they're starting to pollinate. I don't have to hand pollinate anymore. This is Advarsky pepper. I've seen a lot of reviews on that. It's an open pollinated. That one's about ready to take right there, and we're going to give it a try. I want a more prolific bell type pepper because my wife likes cooking with bells quite a bit. Let's see what this one is. This is one of mine. Yeah, this is Sweet Colors too. And we've got some flowers coming on pretty heavily now. I don't see any fruit in there though. Kind of strange. It's really nice, compact growth with a very sweet, because it was crossed with lipstick, a very sweet tasting pepper that starts out yellow and grows from yellow to orange to red, just like California Brian, but it's got a lot of the characteristics of the lipstick, which is really sweet and no spice. Another Zucchino rapicante, and this is the Asian red noodle long bean. They're not anywhere near as good as a green bean, but they're super prolific and they grow really long. I'll show you another one over there. There's one right over there. Excuse me. And they're very great stir-fried. They're very good stir-fried and in like soups and stuff as soup fodder, you know, adding different types of vegetables. There's another squash that's bent over there. I need to trim the leaves off and run them up the trellis now, because even a bush squash will vine. Here's an example of my squash, and you can see all the fruit on it. It's an early producer. It's a fantastic, fantastic squash, and I'm going to put it probably on the market maybe next year because it needs to be shared. It's very, the squash bugs don't like it. Now I have seen, besides that Egyptian squash down there, the white zucchini, Egyptian squash I think is what it is, I don't have any other type of Peppo type squash, which squash bugs really like. And so I don't have a lot to gauge in comparison, but I haven't seen but a couple adult squash bugs on here, but they're not laying eggs on it. I don't think they like the taste of it. And also I haven't lost any squash whatsoever to the squash vine borer. So it's been a bumper crop as far as that goes. This is a tomato of mine called Donovan. It's parthenocarpic and it's just getting started pretty good. It should start setting fruit even in the heat. And it looks like it's not getting too much leaf curl, so hopefully that'll start producing for me. But if you look at the one next to it here, I'm not sure what this one is. It is pretty dang stressed out. You can see by the leaf curl and whatnot. Another squash, Madison's Cross. Another Donovan here. Another one of my squash, because we love this squash. And this one is Green Giant. It doesn't appear to be too stressed out. It's a potato leaf, but there's no fruit set on it yet. It's still kind of new, so we'll give it a chance. And lastly down here is a Tahitian melon squash. It's growing up and over, and I got a fruit here that may get pollinated. Now for the second row. The second row will go quicker, and the third and fourth too, because I don't want to make the video too long. So a lot of these are repeat type things I'm growing. In the ends I grew the vining squash so I could grow them up and across the top at the same time I'm growing tomatoes. So this is a Tahitian melon squash, and here is one that's maturing. I do have some bags, some support bags like I'll show you in the melons over there in just a minute. This is pineapple, ananas, nor, and momotoro tomatoes. They seem to be doing okay. They're not too stressed out, but I don't see any fruit on any of them. The bees are out, so. And I'm also shaking the little trellis, if you will, the cattle panel, to pollinate as I go every day. What have we got here? Virginia Sweets, Calic Brandywine. This is a variety called Rebelski, and it's a hybrid, and so I'm hoping the hybrid may produce a little bit better for me. But as a hybrid that's sold as a commercial type cultivar, they're usually not as tasty. But anyway, what do we got here? This is one of mine that is setting fruit in the heat. It's a parthenocarpic variety. It's a cherry tomato. It's a really good cherry tomato. It does split sometimes, but I don't see any splitting. Oh, let me get on it here. I don't see any splitting yet. It is doing something that's kind of weird when it gets really hot. A lot of the tomatoes are doing that. They get them pointed on the bottom. Instead of round and oval, they'll get a little bit of a point to it. And that's, I've found over time, it's related to how hot it's getting. Another Tahitian. Another looks like Advarsky pepper. Got one growing here. This is a cross of mine. It's a new parthenocarpic cross. I'm not sure what this one is. It's a pepper, obviously. It's either California Brine or Sweet Colors, which is that one I've already talked about. Another pepper. This is another cross. This whole area right here is the same cross. Some more Sweet Colors, I believe. This one's a California Brine, which is the spicier version of Sweet Colors. You can see that's what color they are when they start, and they ripen to a really neat red. Jimmy Nardello. A lot of people rave about these. I've grown them before. I can't remember what they taste like, or if I even got them in the same pots. Advarsky. I've done some research that shows that peppers, if you grow more than two or three in a pot, they can do better for you, and I don't know why that is, but I'm testing it. Another Tromboncini. This is kind of what it looks like when it's ready to be harvested and get a little bigger around, but all that meat in the neck there, that's all just straight meat. I just wish it tasted better. If it was the same species as my squash, I'd cross it with my squash, but it's a machata, and my squash is a peppo. So this is a winged bean. I think it comes from Asia. It's somewhat new. You don't see a lot about it online, but it's got a really cool looking pod, and it's worth always checking out new stuff once in a while. This is Mexico Midget. It's got really, really tiny fruit. Let me see, I just picked some recently. It's also kind of stopped fruiting for me. But the fruit is literally the size of a small pea. It is so tiny. Huh. Here's some. See. Very, very tiny. All right, we've got some here. This is a squash of mine. A tomato of mine. And it's not labeled, so it's probably Dorothy. It's parthenocarpic. Madison's Cross seed squash. More Madison's Cross. This is a black crim. Want to try that. I don't think I've ever grown it, but there's no fruit set on it yet. Probably due to the heat. Another Dorothy. There's a seed squash, zucchino rapicante, or trombone, whatever you want to call it. And I told you I'd show you what the red noodle bean, the Asian long bean, looks like. And I'll let them even get longer than this. But they're softer than a green bean, a little bit softer, and they're obviously very flexible. And yeah, stir fry and soup fodder. My squash, Dorothy parthenocarpic. This is a variety called Mikado, which is an old heirloom that they think is related to the Brandywine. I thought I would grow up my squash. Another one of my parthenocarpic varieties. I should be having some set here, but I don't see any set fruit yet. My squash. This is one called Geranium Kiss, which is a multiflora. I don't see any squash set on that. And then another Tahitian melon, which is grown up and over. Here's one that may have set. It would have been fertilized today. Hopefully it did set. I certainly want to try those Tahitian melon squashes. I hear they're pretty good. And the start of the third row is going to be a melon I call Cantaloupe Cream. And they are definitely growing. Let me see if I can find one that I've bagged here. Here's one. That is a darker color there. I'm not aiming for the darker colors because those don't turn the whitish color. This is one here bagged, and meaning for support. They're placing these bags, and that's what color they look like, and they eventually turn a cream color, which is why I call it cantaloupe cream. It has a very light cantaloupe taste and very, very sweet. Ambrosia was one of its parents. Here's another one back here. And so right now I'm letting them field cross. In other words, they're growing out in the quote-unquote field, and the bees are crossing them. So there'll be a little bit of varying, with hopefully some that will end up being more like this. I have a lot more of these. So once I gather all of the seed, here's one down here that's pretty mature, and one underneath it too. And yeah, they're like a whitish cream color. I was going to call it the moon melon. I have a video. I think it's called New Melon or something like that, and I think I might have quoted moon melon because it kind of reminds me of the moon. It's round, about 6 pounds or so, 6 to 8 pounds. Very, very, very sweet, and it's so delicious. It's got a little bit of cantaloupe taste to it. Oh man, I need to put this one back up. Doing it kind of in front of you right now until I can get back out here. This is another crossing of mine. It's going to be Copper Bear, and it's a cross between Chocolate Stripes and one of my Parthenocarpic types, and you can see it's gotten the striping in it. This one's growing or setting fruit in the heat. Not great, but some, so it's a candidate to keep the seed from. I've got J2 green beans there and there. Let me see if I can show you here. Got little fruit showing here, and yes, it's called fruit. Almost all vegetables that we eat in the summertime are actually fruit. We call them vegetables, but if it's got a fleshy outside hiding seed on the inside, it's actually a fruit. And that's why sometimes you'll hear a tomato referred to a fruit. Because botanically it is actually a berry in the fruit family. Okay, but anyway, there's another jade 2, some more of copper. This is my okra, razorback red. No, this one isn't. This one is heavy hitter, which I'd consider crossing to, but I don't think I want to dilute my okra, which is razorback red. That's what I'm naming it. Another zucchino replicante, wing bean, more tomatoes. This one is going to be mountain bear. I don't like the way the foliage took in the cross, so that may not go anywhere, but it is setting fruit not pretty good, but some. Some cucumbers. I've got none, well, I got one over here I need to take. I've been eating them like crazy. The cucumbers are a dehybridization of a Parthenocarpic variety called Sweet Success. And all I did was I changed the gynaeceous, which means female, flowers into male through chemical. And that's how it'll start generating male flowers at that point, and then I'll just cross it to itself. And that's how I continue the generation. And that's a dehybridization of Sweet Success, so I'm selecting for the better qualities there. There's another one. I put 2 on these 2 rows, the 3rd and the 4th row on the ends. And we're eating a lot of those cucumbers. They're really, really good. Zucchino, replicante, Asian noodle, red noodle. This is another cross of mine here. I'm not seeing anything I like out of this yet, and no fruit set. Here's another of that cucumber dehybridization here. I need to get those fruits, but that's the size, and they're really good at that size. I need to get those, but I'm getting a little overwhelmed with cucumbers and squash. I'm really wanting to get to my dang tomatoes and peppers. So anyway, I'm walking down between row 2 and 3 here. I'll give you a quick tour of row 4. These are, I don't know if you call them baby or pocket watermelons that I'm attempting to grow here. And you can see here, there's one. There's more coming on. Some of them have stripes, some of them don't have this vivid stripes. And what's so great about these is it's a sport that had really tiny seed, and I saved the seed from that really tiny seeded version. So I'm hoping that these will make decent sized melons of about 5 to 8 pounds that have hardly, well, they don't have big seed at all. They have tiny seed, and hopefully just a few of those. So that's what I'm going to select for, to create an open pollinated variety to kind of compete, at least in our family, with the seedless ones that are really hard to grow, because the seedless ones, you have to get a seeded variety that must be crossed with it, or the seedless variety won't grow. This is another one. This is another row of copper, jade, 2 green beans, copper bear, tomato. Got a little bit of leaf curl here, and not so much up top, which is good. I probably need to remove some of the lower leaves because the plants are stressing. Anyway, more jade. This is razorback okra. I don't see any pods on it yet, but the pods, the thing that's so good about razorback okra, that's not it. I'll go down a little bit further. Hopefully there's some pods. Is that not only are they mottled green and kind of a pinkish red, which is really cool looking, mottled, that color, mottled, M-O-T-T-L-E-D, is between that color and green, mottled, but the pods get really long, 10 to above 10 inches even, and they're still very tender. Zucchino here, wing bean. This is some more of the mountain bear that I was telling you about over there. Some more cucumber. Here's razorback again. No pods yet. Let me look on this one. No pods yet. But the more sun it gets, like a lot of the colored, like the royal purple eggplant and stuff, the more direct sun it gets, the more vivid the colors get. So that's always neat. If you want to keep that in mind, they'll be lacking a lot of color if they're shaded and are not getting as much sunlight. So anyway, this is, like I mentioned before, this one is Big Bear, and Big Bear is not producing at this generation parthenocarpic fruit, so it's probably a bust. And then we've got some more tomatoes. This particular one's got a little longer, thinner fruit. So, yep, this is the one I showed you a minute ago. This is more what I like. I'm going to go ahead and take that one and take it in. I need to take that one. I'll take that one. I'll do those tomorrow. Anyway, yep, that's a fruit taken for you. I come out here a couple times a day just to check on things, and it's one of my better gardens, but it's also has issues, as is the case with all gardening. Just wanted to give you an update. This is Brent, you guys. We'll see you later.